Good morning to all of you for joining and thank you for joining this webinar on funding support under this India-Israel Initiative for Industrial R&D program. This is implemented by the Global Innovation and Technology Alliance, which is a joint venture of PPP company, Section 25 company, promoted jointly by CII and Technology Development Board, Department of Science and Technology, Government of India. So what I'll do is I'll just briefly give you an overview of Gita's activities and then come down specifically on this India-Israel program. So now let me just give you a brief background of Gita's activities. If we look at this business expenditure in R&D, so India is one of the amongst the lowest rated countries in terms of the expenditure which it is making in terms of the GDP of the country. For example, if we look at other countries, Israel, they are spending about 4% of the GDP in research and development. Japan, South Korea, and Scandinavian countries, they are spending more than 3%. And coming to the Asian region, China spends more than 1.5%. But India's spend on the R&D in terms of the GDP is even less than 1%. And majority of this 1% investment comes from the government and not from the private sector. So assuming that it is less than 1% or approximately 1%. So 0.65% comes from the government and 0.35% comes from the Indian industry. In the 12th five-year plan, government has set a goal to double the India's R&D expenditure in terms of GDP from current level of 1% to 2%. And the idea is that the industry's investment in R&D goes up to 1%, and then you have a matching share of the government, which is again 1%. So the total investment in terms of GDP becomes 2% of the total GDP. And in this initiative, there are different schemes which government has initiated, and there are tax incentives available. But the idea is that the kind of schemes which are running so far, they have not been instrumental in giving sort of major impetus to the investment in R&D by the private sector. So with the result that government initiated this project, and then subsequently the subcommittee of PM's Council on Trade and Industry recommended that there should be an arm's length institution under the PPP model, which should professionally manage the government funds and also provide linkages with the international R&D organizations and undertake the joint industrial R&D facilitation. So as a result, on November 29, 2011, so this organization was incorporated as a PPP company, and so we have the mandate of to implement government schemes and to attract industry's investment in R&D, technology development and technology deployment, with institutional partnerships and global collaborations to deliver tangible business outcomes. So what is our major role? It is a unique institution for providing demand-driven technology solutions through institutional and global alliances via a competitive process. The idea here is that, for example, if Indian industry is looking for 3D machines, and if those kind of technologies can be acquired from particular countries, so we help in sort of ascertaining the needs of the industry and identifying from which countries those needs could be fulfilled, and then facilitating this process through linkages with overseas organizations and academia industry partnerships in the country, and also through the policy initiatives. So Gita is a one-stop shop for forging frontline global technology alliances for Indian companies for achieving leadership in global and domestic markets. It is an innovation mechanism between Government of India and Indian industry for attracting industry's investment in technology by mapping technology gap, which I just mentioned, evaluating technology across the globe on appropriateness from economic perspective for India, connecting amongst technology developers, providers, commercializers, and funding the last phase of technology development that connects the market and deployment of technology solutions. So here the focus is on the last mile research or the technologies which can be speedily brought to the market. Because why we have been lagging is that we have not been able to convert the technological development into the commercialized form. So now the focus of this, this new STI policy and this 12th plan is to give impetus to technologies which could be commercialized and establish linkages between the industry, government, and the institutions to take this process forward. So talking of the innovation system of TITA, as I just mentioned, the idea is that we have these linkages with industry, academia, and then the central government. They provide this enabling policy and funding, and we then link up with the global organizations and are instrumental in facilitating partnerships between Indian industry and their counterparts in other countries with the support of the academia and research institutions. So it is a sort of a consortium approach which we are trying to promote, where the lead industry from India partners with the academic and R&D institutions on the Indian side. Similarly, on the Israeli side, for example, the Israeli lead industry, they can partner with the industries and other industries and academia and R&D institutions on the Israeli side. And then through these linkages, they can submit the joint proposals and apply for funding. I'll come to that later slide. So as I mentioned, it is a unique public-private partnership company, and it is basically managed by professionals for effective fund management and evaluation of project in a very transparent manner, and then the fund dispersal. The modalities of the fund disbursement could be loan, grant, or equity, depending on the funding mode of the partner country. And so it is basically sort of a joint program, and under the joint program, whatever the funding mode is adopted by the both these governments and funding agencies. So India tries to match that. But at the moment, for the industry, India is giving soft loans, and for the academic institutions which are partnering with the Indian industry, they get grants. But there is a possibility that we have grants also may be possible in the future for the Indian companies, provided the projects are good and they have commercialization potential. So those things can be decided on a case-to-case basis. But as of now, we are providing loans, but depending on the funding mode of the partner country. So GITA is a gateway for accessing Indian market and technology partners. It's providing an environment and providing certification services to partner with overseas organizations. And for academic institutions, it is a link for funding of industrial R&D. That means I just mentioned to you that industries can partner with the academic and research institutions who can provide them the requisite technological support for commercialization of technology. And for industry, it is providing fixed technology, funding, and enabling project management support. So coming to the structure of our board, we have Mr. Vikram Kirloskar, who is chairing this from the industry side, and we have Mr. Mukesh Mittal, who is co-chairing the GITA board from the TDB side. Mr. Gopala Krishnan is on our board. Mr. Mukundan from Tata Chemicals, Mr. Deep Kapuria, Mr. Navrol Coleridge. And similarly, we have on the government side, we have Radha Mitra. She is the Joint Secretary and Financial Advisor DST. Anjali Prasad from PIPP. Dr. Arvinda Mitra from DST. and we are in the process of having more members on board from industry and the government. Coming to the ongoing programs, we already have India-Israel program, about which we will be talking, and India-Canada program. So in 2013, we plan to launch India-UK program, India-Spain program, India-Finland program, India-South Korea program, and there is a DIPP Technology Acquisition and Development Fund, which has been assigned to Geeta, and Geeta will be managing this fund and providing support to the industry. These things are in the pipeline, and we are developing the structure and the modalities of these programs. So the types of projects which could be funded are joint research and development between India and the partner country, joint deployment through pilot production, testing, market access. And the idea is that the project should be innovative and user need based and market driven. And the focus again is on eventual commercialization. So we are not talking of the basic research because that happens, in the country and overseas. But how those research results could be brought to the market through international partnerships. That's our focus. And generally, the duration of the project should be 24 months, 2-year project. And of course, it could be, it depends on the project, but usually the time period for this kind of a project is 24 months from the date of receipt of funds. So currently, Geeta is focusing on these sectors: agriculture, healthcare, renewable energy, water purification, wastewater treatment, ICT, biotechnology, earth sciences and disaster management, nanoscience, nanotechnology, space science and technology, life sciences, treatment of municipal, industrial, biohazardous waste, energy efficiency, green mobility, clean coal technologies. These are as per the ongoing programs with different countries. So because they have their focus area, and we have found some commonalities in those areas. So these are broadly the focus areas where Geeta is currently working. And as and when we sign more agreements with other countries and there are other focus areas, those will also be incorporated into it. Now coming to the main topic of this webinar, that is the India-Israel Initiative for Industrial R&D. So here it is a bilateral framework, and which is supported by the government from both sides. When India Department of Science and Technology is the ministry funding organization, and on the Israeli side it is the Office of Chief Scientist. And the implementation in India is done by Geeta, Global Innovation and Technology Alliance, and on the Israeli side our counterpart is Metimon. So what we basically do, one is the partner matching. So based on your request, if you are looking for some particular technology from Israel, and or you want to offer a technology to Israel and develop or undertake joint R&D project for commercialization of a technology. So we help in partner matching, and then of course we have these inbound and outbound missions where the companies can participate and they can undertake and they can initiate dialogue with their counterparts and establish joint ventures or business relationships. And we also provide information on what are the policies and schemes available in India and in other countries, so that there is a sort of a good understanding of the kind of policy framework which is available in India and in Israel. So we help that. And coming to the funding, we are supporting up to 50% of the Indian cost. That means if let's say if the project cost is 10 crore, out of 10 crores, 5 crores is the Indian project cost. So out of that 5 crores, 2.5 crore will be the contribution from the industry, and 2.5 matching contribution will be from the government. So basically, if we are talking of this project, so 50% Indian industry will put in, and 50% Indian government will put in. for the Indian aspect of the project cost. Similarly, on the Israeli side, 50% or their government and then and also their industry. So it's like that. There are, of course, there could be some variations in on the Israeli side on the what is the level of support, but from the Indian side, this is we have this clear understanding that 50% of the cost has to be borne by the industry and 50% cost will be borne by the government of the Indian component of the project cost. So usually when the industries are partnering with the institutions, Indian institutions, so they can the Indian institutions will get grant, because that's all the institutions will get the grant and the industry will get a loan, which is a soft loan at the rate of 3%, and let's come to that. So as I mentioned, this is implementation agency is Gita on Indian side, and implementation agency in Israel is Metimov on behalf of the Office of Chief Scientist, which is the funding agency of Israel. Now coming to the eligibility, this program, the application process for under this program is open to all companies which are registered under the Indian Companies Act and located in anywhere in India, and they can develop this project in collaboration with Israeli counterparts. But the main thing is that the Indian company's shareholding should be more than 50%. So that is because we are looking at promoting India's technological capabilities, and so the government has mandated that companies which are registered in India and under this Companies Act 1956 and having more than 50% shareholding should be eligible for this funding program. And currently under this program, the focus is on renewable energy, water management, and affordable healthcare. But if there are other, innovative projects which are, as per the evaluation process, they are found to be innovative, they could also be funded. And the funding in India will be up to 50% of the total approved R&D cost, with a limit of $250,000 in form of a returnable loan. In Israel, up to 50% of R&D expenses in form of soft loan. So it is almost matching, and so the funding support and Indian companies will be and Indian institutions will be funded by Gita on behalf of BST, and in Israel it will be funded by Metimov on behalf of the Office of Chief Scientist. What are the important dates for this request for proposals which we have announced? This was announced on June 15th, and last date of submission of the completed application form is October 15th. And we are expecting, because this will subsequently be evaluated, and which will be a panel of experts, and subsequently we will discuss these with our counterparts, and the announcement of results would be is expected around 15th of next year. So I just mentioned to you about the focus areas. These are some of the focus sub areas where we are trying to facilitate this joint R&D between India and Israel. So under renewable energy, we have off-grid micro solar systems, large-scale solar systems, biomass-based power, smart grids. In the area of water management, it is water treatment technologies, water reuse and cycling, desalination, water supply and distribution, water leak detection, loss reduction. And in affordable healthcare, we are basically targeting at technologies which are non-invasive diagnostic devices, particularly for women and children, and then the ICT application for medicine and healthcare. As I mentioned that this call is open for other projects also based on the merit that include science and technology development, leading to commercial success, social good, and benefit to both the countries. So we'll just discuss in detail how what is the application process and who can apply. So as I mentioned, one industry from India, which we can call as Indian project lead, can apply jointly with one industry from Israel, which is the Israeli project lead, to apply for one joint project proposal. Who are the eligible Indian applicants? As I mentioned to you, the companies which are registered in India under the Indian Companies Act 1956 with a minimum of 51% Indian ownership. They should be headquartered and operate in India. And IPL applicant companies should undertake the process to get its R&D center recognized. The idea is because they have to undertake this joint R&D, so they should have a requisite infrastructure, R&D infrastructure in place to implement this. So the government has advised that the companies should have DSIR recognized R&D center. It is not mandatory for companies to have this center while applying for the this application, but in due course, in 12 months, they can get the registration done and get the recognition done from DSIR. And then sole proprietors, partnership firms, and subsidiaries of firms headquartered and owned outside India are not eligible for support under this program. So this is basically the focus is on the companies which are pursuing serious R&D, and they want to partner with other countries to develop new products and processes with clear commercialization potential. So that is the focus of this program. As I mentioned to you earlier, academic institutions, research hospitals, other R&D institutes, including not-for-profit research institutions recognized by TST, GITA, that are headquartered and operate in India may participate in the project as co-investigators and partners. So this idea is that there can be consortiums of lead industries and having partnership with research institutions, academic institutions, and hospitals in the concerned areas, and then similar arrangement or slightly different arrangement can follow on the Israeli side. So similarly, in Israel also the applicant should have they should be performing this R&D, and that is governed by their rules and regulations. So the funding from DST through GITA will be limited to 50% of the total eligible national cost, which I mentioned to you. So that is for this under this program it is 1.25 crores. That is the maximum the grant which can be the maximum loan which can be given under this program. So the total cost of the project, that means from the Indian component of the cost, can be maximum 2.5 crores. So out of that, 1.25 crores will be brought in by the Indian partners, that means lead industry and their partnering institutions, and 1.25 will be then brought in by the government funds. So the government fund, the R&D institutions could also be funded as in a grant, in the manner of grant, and the industries would be funded in form of a loan at the moment, which is at 3%, and which is repayable upon completion of the project period. So the project period of 2 years is basically a moratorium period, where there is no payback expected. So after the project period is over, then the companies can start paying in annual installments. There are 10 installments, and that depends on the nature of the project and as per the recommendations of the project evaluation committee. So similarly, on Israeli side also, it is not more than 30% government funding. So how this process of evaluation happens, I'll just briefly tell you about that. So once we receive the applications, then in India the project proposals would be examined and reviewed by sectoral and financial experts. There will be a committee constituted of the sectoral and financial experts, and a meeting of the project evaluation committee will be convened by GITA, where all the project applicants will be invited to make presentations and have discussions, detailed discussions, because sometimes in the proposal certain things are not clear, or they are not given in detail. So the idea of having the PC meeting and the presentation by the project applicants is that they are able to highlight what are their goals, and wherever there are communication gaps in terms of submitting a proposal, those could be highlighted before the experts, and then the process could be a very transparent process where we could do discussions, and finally based on that the project evaluation committee can come to an understanding how much weightage should be given to the project service other projects. So because there is a limited funding available, and so obviously the projects which are top ranked from both sides will only qualify. So similarly as in India, in Israel also this parallel and independent evaluation process of the application submitted will take place, and subsequently the list of recommended projects in India would be shared with the Israeli counterpart. And similarly, Israeli counterparts will share their list of recommended projects. Based on these two, then we'll arrive at which are the common projects which could be funded from both sides. Based on this, then due diligence of these jointly recommended projects will take place, because idea here is that while submitting a proposal, although most of the details may have been submitted, but there has to be due diligence of the structure, R&D, capabilities, and the company's capabilities to undertake this project, and also the financial due diligence. Because as I mentioned before, that the idea is clearly on the potential of commercialization of the technology. It's not that the funds are received and then there is no output. Of course, there can be some failures, and if there are genuine failures, those can be taken into account. But the idea is that we give special focus on the commercialization of technologies, and that is why due diligence becomes all the more important. So what are the key criteria of selection of the project? The project should be innovative, aim to lead to a new product process with clear commercialization potential, which I just mentioned. Should have at least 2 S&T companies from respective countries with a desire to cooperate in R&D activities. So the lead has to be industry. Under this program, lead from both organizations has to be in industry. So project work should have developmental activities both in India and in Israel. So the project period could be 1 to 3 years, but usually it is 2 years, and which can stretch on to 3 years if there are some components which are happening in India, and then some components of the research may happen in Israel subsequently. Say for example, if a certain part has to be developed in Israel, and then subsequently in India, there is some value addition has to take place. So that part, until the part is not ready in Israel, cannot be sent to India for value addition, and then sent back to Israel for subsequent finalization. So those kind of things are taken into account. So the minimum period is 1 year, then maximum is 3 years. Normally it is 24 months. So industry partners from both the countries should contribute together at least 50% of the total project cost, which I covered in my previous slides. And the main thing is that before getting into this submitting the joint application, or at the time of submitting the joint application, both the project partners should clearly agree to what their roles are about, and in terms of sharing IP rights and the commercialization strategy, because that's very important. So it should not later on result in some sort of a conflict of interest, or some misunderstanding between the two partners. So we insist that the project partners sign agreement in advance, where they clearly define what are their roles, contributions in the project, and how the IP rights will be shared, and how this commercialization strategy is envisaged. So for submitting the application, we have this online application which on our Gita website, and so you can visit on Gita website, register yourself. There is a link. You have to just register, get your username and password, and then you'll be able to access the online form. And you can start filling in the online form. In case you have any particular request from the Israeli side, the technology which you're looking for, you can send those queries to us, or your proposals to us, pre-proposal, because it will also take some time for you to scout what kind of technologies you are looking for from Israel and who are the potential partners. So from our side, we will approach our counterpart Matimov and submit the requirements of the Indian companies, that these are technologies which are required by them, and if they can find matching partners in Israel. Subsequently, both the Indian industry and the Israeli industries, they will communicate with each other and submit the joint application form. So that means the joint application form will be submitted simultaneously before the closing date. So the Indian companies will access these forms on Gita website and submit the forms on Gita website. Similarly, the Israeli companies will access the forms and other documents on Matimov website, and then they will submit on the Matimov website. But the form is common. It is just because if we have received a form in India and the same form has not been submitted in Israel, so then there is a problem, because it's a joint program, but at the same time the Indian companies are supposed to submit the form only to Gita, and Israeli companies are supposed to submit the form only to Matimov. So of course the copies will be exchanged by Gita and Matimov subsequently. But this is the process, because all the screening and if there are any information gaps, then we'll get back to you before the list is finalized from both sides of the jointly submitted forms.